Hello there, and welcome to the third episode of the Gochuucast. If you haven't seen our previous two episodes, you should probably go watch those. But I am Dan here with PK and Spat, and once again, our guest table is empty, and that will be the case for a long time. But today, we have a fun little activity planned. We are just going to be introducing some anime concept, I guess, is the best way to put it. I guess that the title kind of gave that away, but the three of us have decided that we are the greatest writing talents on Earth, and so we will be undertaking our own project. I don't know how seriously all of us took it. We haven't shared any details other than like maybe genre, so we didn't all do the same thing. But yeah, I randomized the list, and so I will be going first again for uh, the sharing portion. But we'll probably keep it like 20, 25 minutes per person, just to keep it within the nice little hour 30 area. But all right, so I'll start off with mine. I'll copy paste the details after I explain it.
Do it. I'm hyped.
I want to see what he made because there's like such a big variety of things I could see Daniel wanting to make. Even if knowing the genre, there's still like 7 or 8 different directions I can think of off the top of my head.
All right, so I mentioned this in the group chat, but this is basically one big shit post. Like, this is something someone on Reddit would come up with if they were to come up with an anime idea. Not that I look at Reddit anyway, but so the title is a little bit of a doozy, as for anime goes. So I do have an abbreviation as well, so we can refer
Oh
to
my
it.
gosh, this is one of those nine word
Oh
titles.
no!
9 words
Oh
is a
no!
pretty generous estimate. So the full title, first, is I got summoned to another world with my little sister, but my other little sister got left behind. Also known
What the
as
heck?
the Emoto Sekai.
Oh no!
Okay.
I'll copy paste that detail real quick just so you have it. Then I'll go through the
Okay.
I'll get
Okay, dude.
some other things in there. Okay, so I can't remember when I came up with this, but it was a little while ago. I don't remember what I was making fun. I think I was making fun of Isekai in general, and I came up with this gem of a shit post, and so I decided to bring it back to life for today.
Okay.
But yeah, it is. Okay, I see all reacting to the. Didn't really come up with names for the characters except for a few of them.
Okay, me neither.
So the genre, of course, it's fantasy. Isekai is not really a genre, but that's a whole big other debate that we'll save for another day, probably. But it's also an action adventure comedy. You can probably put harem in there as well. I'll explain that later. Um, the characters, we have the main character, of course, and his two sisters. One is Isekai, one's not. And we have Nutsties, the Demon Lord. There's also another character I forgot to put in there. They are the Angel Lord, known as Amgil. You can I'll type that in there. You can
Oh, I understand now. Now that I see it, yeah.
put that backwards on a little napkin or something. You'll see what I did. But yeah, I came up with a little 12 episode thing here. I don't think it really finishes anything definitively, but season 2 is unconfirmed, so I didn't come up with anything beyond the 12 episodes.
Are the light novels ongoing currently?
To be determined. I'm on hiatus.
Oh, hiatus. Ah, I see.
Okay, dude.
But so episode 1, how this all starts out, right? So it's an isekai, so you basically how this is gonna go. I said summon in the title, but maybe that's not exactly accurate. They got isekai in the traditional sense.
Yes,
So
Truck-kun.
the main character and the sisters in parentheses. Let me actually, I'll copy paste episode by episode every time I put it in.
Oh
I'll
my
just make things
God.
easier to follow. So
Crazy.
the main character and the sisters, as you see in the parentheses, they are non-blood related, very important. Are hit by a truck. So imagine like, you got stick figure 1 here, you got stick figure 2 here, you got stick figure 3 here, and the truck comes from like the left, right? It's gonna hit 1 and
Yep.
2, but
Right.
then they're gonna cushion number 3. So, since Sister 1 and the main character take the brunt of the hit, they get isekai'd, while the other one stays in the
The
normal
other one
world.
lives and
The other one
stays.
lives
Oh
and
no!
stays in the normal world. So this new world, of course, is a fantasy world, and the Demon Lord has kidnapped Amgil, the Angel Lord's sister. little sister, very important. The reward for her safe return is any one wish can be granted. Of course, the main character and the sisters sign up for the Adventurers Guild and are determined to get their one wish. That one wish, of course, will be revealed in the final episode. So then we move on to episode 2. These aren't like the most detailed ever. Some are more detailed than others.
Are we going to go through all 12 episodes just out of curiosity?
Of course, we're going through all 12 episodes. I got to get down the plot of this.
Let's
I'm also never
go.
getting this 20 minutes of explanation, or 10 minutes. But episode 2, we get a perspective change. I thought that'd be interesting. Yeah, we go to the real world instead. Obviously, little sister 2 is distraught about losing half of her family. The parents are still alive, of course. A funeral procession is held, and we get flashbacks to how the two sisters before lost their old family in an accident at sea. And these two girls were saved, but not their parents, obviously, because they got adopted by the main character's family. And she tries to continue her life as normal, but it's a struggle. See, this episode is mainly to set up the fact that they are non-blood related. Very important detail when it comes to these things that obviously I can't gloss over. If
I also have a question about the two little sisters.
Yeah.
In terms of age, not how old are they, but is the one who stays in the main world the older sister or the younger sister, or are they twins?
Because I didn't think that far, they're twins.
Okay.
All right, but
Thanks.
then we move on to episode 3. And so of course I need some sort of filler in here basically, but the Adventurers Guild gives a test to the main character in Sister 1. Sister 1 will be referred to as S1 throughout my things here. To determine their magic abilities. This is where we find out they're overpowered. Not that we didn't know that before going into this, just because it's an Isekai, but typical Isekai, they're both broken. And they're broken because they use the real world knowledge they have to enhance their abilities because science and stuff. And they also have affinity for every type of magic. This magic will not be explained in any capacity to make them as strong as I need them to be in any given moment in time. Thank you for coming to my magical TED Talk. But moving.
How many affinities is normal for a person in this isekai world, or is that a capacity?
It's a great question.
0.
That won't be explained. Just know they have all of them.
Gotcha.
It's explained in season 2.
Maybe.
Unconfirmed.
Confirmed. Season 2 it's on hiatus right now.
Season 1 actually covers the entire one and only volume of the light novel.
Okay, so episode 4, we have the main character and Sister 1 go on their first quest because they gotta make that cash money. You know, they have nothing in this world, so they need to get something to live on, and so they decided to take on an S+ ranked quest, the hardest difficulty, because it pays a lot of money. They didn't really think about the consequences, and that quest is to go slay a dragon. This dragon, I don't know why they need to slay it, but they just do. All right, it's a dragon, just makes sense. The fight is long and drawn out to pad the runtime until help arrives on the scene, and this new female character is the little sister of the Adventurer Guild owner, and she reveals that dragon killing magic exists. See, they know that they have all the affinities. They don't know what all the affinities are, so they just didn't know this existed. But now they do because I needed to kill the dragon. The guild sister finds the main character and Sister 1 cool because they're strong, and because I need to make this a harem, she joins the team. So
Okay, so is this little sister blood related to the guild owner?
Yeah, but not blood related to the main character, so that's
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I
all
just wanted to
that
make sure. I
matters.
just need to know what's going on. That's all.
Yeah. So
Is the MC like a Chad, or is he just like one of those, like this just happens to him and we're all like, why? Question mark.
That's a great question. Maybe we'll think about that in season 2. But he comes across as the typical Isekai MC who's Chad but has no personality, so he's just Chad.
I'm just picturing him as the main character from Smartphone. Then
more Chad than Smartphone, less Chad than like
impossible.
Whatever Chad you're thinking of. So episode 5, we have a filler episode. So it's a village festival episode instead of a summer festival because they're in an Isekai world. This is gets some world building in there, you know. I gotta do a little bit of something.
What do they do at the summer festival?
Festival stuff.
Or the village festival, I guess.
Village festival stuff. That's it.
Okay.
It's into more detailed than the novel, of course.
Yeah, of course.
The
And we
anime
are
can't afford all
only
that.
an anime podcast, not a novel podcast. So
Maybe we can talk about novels one day. but
Not
we
a
have-
manga
Yeah.
podcast either. Not a manga podcast.
Exactly. All this detail and stuff, it had to get cut because of time constraints. But yeah, so it's just basically a filler episode. We get episode 6 here. So episode 6 is I need to make the guild sister relevant in some form or fashion. So it starts with her being fucking useless in a fight, right? And she needs to get saved by her 2 companions. This is to give her Mickey Mouse character development, as I like to call it. She gets upset at how useless she is, and in the middle of the night, she tries to go on a hard quest alone. She is getting her ass beat in some fight, but then she is stopped by the main character and Sister 1, and they all finish the quest together. And then they decide to train the guild sister because anime, she is now OP, and she can do things. So we got episode 7 here, which is the hot spring episode. I think we all know what goes on there.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, of course. And then episode 8, we're going to have... Fuck, this spills onto the next page. God dang it. Okay, hold on.
I have a question while you're finding episode 8.
Yep.
So the guildmaster sister is the one who revealed dragon slaying or dragon killing magic.
Yeah.
Dragon slaying is probably patented, but dragon killing magic to the main characters.
Uh-huh.
But she's weak.
She knows it exists.
She has
Yeah.
knowledge.
I
She
guess
has knowledge.
my question is, why is she there at the scene of the dragon fight in episode
It'll be
4?
revealed in season 2.
Okay, so I didn't put this detail in the Spark notes, but she goes there. I definitely didn't come up with this just now to tie up this loose end, but she goes there because the guildmaster realized that they took the hardest job, even though they're like the lowest rank of guild people, and so she goes there to try and stop them. But because anime characters
she's
have
too
no
late,
common
yeah.
sense, she's too late. She's got to go into the fight. But then she knows they have all the affinities or whatever, and so she just reveals it.
So she
and then
just
they kill
tells them
dragon.
the way out because they're just royally screwed at that point.
She was gonna tell them, but she's like, "Hey, dragon killing magic exists." And they're like, "Oh, we have all the affinities," and so they kill the dragon. Anyway, episode 8, we get another perspective change. I needed an episode idea, and I'm just bringing a little more character building for Sister 2. She's starting to get back on her feet. It wasn't easy, but she's now decided she wants to go into the medical field to help save people's loved ones, so they don't have to go through what she did. Test is coming up, and she's having a hard time studying for it. And after an episode of moping around, her parents give her an anime speech because she's powered up by the power of love, and she wants to honor her brother and Sister 1. She passes the test with a perfect score. Basically a filler episode, but it's there. So we episode 9, totally not another filler episode. The main character gets sick, but they've been working hard, and he wants to lay in bed for the day, and so he doesn't heal himself up with healing magic. And so this gives the perfect opportunity for a filler bonding episode between Sister 1 and the guild sister, because I need to give them character.
Wait, so
They need
maybe
to also be friends for this harem to be successful.
Yes, of course.
So this is maybe spoilers, but do Sister 1 and the other 2 guys, the Sister 1 and the main character, do they ever meet, or is that revealed later on? Like, do the worlds converge?
You mean sister? Like, does Sister 2 ever see
Yes.
the ones who
yes.
can isekai?
Do they reunite?
I don't know. We'll see. Because
Will we see in season 1?
Season 2.
We're on episode 10 right now. And
Okay.
I needed another person to add to the show, into this harem. And so they run into a strong adventurer who is the little sister of the kingdom's royal family. And she ran away from home because she hates being royalty or something. And the kingdom finds her and tries to take her back home. But the main character anime speeches the knights and stuff, and the royalty sister is allowed to go with them on the adventure. Episode 11, we're getting close to the climax, so I had to start speeding things up.
Okay.
I probably could add an episode 13.
We have had
whatever.
like four filler episodes already to this point. So
Episode 11, the demon lord hears about this strong gang of adventurers, right? And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna reveal my location, and they're gonna come to me, and I'm gonna kill them. And so throughout this episode, we got a little fan in the background, PK.
how is that picking up now?
I don't know, just like randomly
All
started.
right. Is it still picking up?
Cut that from the vid. Cut that from the
Yeah,
vid.
it's still it's still going. So through the episode, the gang has to fight the Demon Lord minions because the final episode needs to be the Demon Lord, and the gang is OP, so it doesn't matter anyway. They kill the minions, and so now we reach the final episode. It's still picking up the fan like just a little bit. I don't know why it's starting now of all times, but
Yeah, I don't know why either.
episode 12. So the final fight is versus the Demon Lord, Nutsdees. The gang fights the Demon Lord into his phase 2, and that's when Amgil shows up to help the fight, and they defeat Nutsdees, and everyone makes a wish. 2 people we added to the harem in the New World wish to continue. Oh, holy shit, okay. You're gonna have to, like, throw hands with your fan, dude. Alright, where was I? They wish to continue traveling with the main character and Sister 1. That's their wish. Kind of useless, but Sister 1 then wishes for all their wounds to be healed from the fight, since she knows what the main character will wish for. And the season ends with Season 2 being, or Sister 2, God, I read it as 2, Season 2, being taken out of an exam and being brought to the Isekai world to now be with the main character and Sister 1. And
Okay.
and
Got
so we're on hiatus, so season 2 unconfirmed.
Okay. So what I'm understanding is the main character wishes for season 2 to be with them. Is that what I'm getting? Is that it?
Yeah, the main character wishes for Sister 2 to come
Got
to
it.
the Isekai world.
Okay, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. That's a good ending. Well, I mean, this is not the ending, right? I mean, you never know
Season
what's
2,
going to happen in season 2.
yeah, unconfirmed, but yeah, it looks like PK Devon. I don't know if he. Oh no, okay, he's back. Welcome back, PK.
Welcome
I
back.
am back.
Okay, so you can see the spark notes there. Where
Yes.
we finished.
I have gotten the gist slightly. Okay, so aside from the obvious little sisters thing going on,
Yeah.
which is great, fantastic. Honestly, really good work. It's interesting that there's still a pretty significant focus on the sister who didn't get isekai'd, despite the fact that she really has no influence on, at least to this point, has no real influence on the 2 who have been isekai'd.
Yo.
In fact, I don't even know if they remember her through these spark notes. I assume they do. But
Yeah, the whole
I think
point,
it's funny
the
in
whole
her
point of,
episodes, it's like very focused on, I want to do these things for my brother and sister. And then they're just like,
No. See, the point of them going to fight the Demon Lord is so they can wish their sister to the Isekai world.
true.
So they remember her. It's just that, they got the Isekai stuff going on too.
They just ignore it until episode 12.
Well, it's not that they ignore it. It's just, what are you gonna... I can only write so much in the spark notes, alright?
That's true.
I wasn't gonna write up
It's in there. It's reserved for final production.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't gonna write up a 20-page document on the Emoto Sekai.
Yeah. I guess the crux of my question or thought there, when I want to ask about this Sister 2, is just, do you foresee her having any type of impact in the conclusion of the story? And that's why we give her like a significant portion.
Yeah.
Like, I think of it as like, if MC and Sister 1 are kind of like opening the door from one side, is Sister 2 kind of opening the door from the other side in a way?
No.
In terms of like the progression of the characters.
Think of this as like a prelude to her character. I can't just like drop her in there without any character at all, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's
I mean,
little character building episodes in between.
Yeah, that's fair. Would you say that in the novels there was a similar amount of representation, maybe a little less, maybe the anime, did a little more with her because they knew that she would probably be important later on? I mean, it seems like her episodes are kind of fillery.
You'll have to ask the author on that. I'm kidding.
You're not the author. You don't claim responsibility anymore.
It was a very faithful adaptation. The Spark Notes don't do
Okay.
it justice, but
Got it.
Okay, I
Got
also have to, elephant in the room, because I kind of almost talked about it earlier too. We keep referring to them all as little sisters, which can mean a lot of things. But you also stated you want this to be a harem.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, putting it as mildly as I can, how little would you say these sisters are?
Little enough to be little sisters, but old enough to not have me called into the court of law.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, you're safe. You're safe.
Safe.
Well, it is an adaptation, right? So, you're not responsible for how poor. I mean,
Exactly. However
Yeah,
they
right.
portray it
the
in the
characters
anime
are written, right?
is
So-
not my fault.
So, do you think in the future progression of this story that there may be more little sisters to come, or do you think we kind of have our core cast built up?
Assuming season 2 gets made, I would believe that once the novel comes out of hiatus, there would be more. And how the story progresses from here, I don't know. You have to ask the author, but
All right.
I didn't
Well, this
think that far.
sounds.
Beanie,
I'll be,
you chose to adapt a story instead of write an original content. Huh? How
I'll
convenient.
definitely be giving this one the old 1 episode try.
The whole
Not
one
the old
episode. No,
3 episode
it's the
try.
3
No,
episode.
this is a 1 episode try. But
if you made
for
it
all
through
the little
all
sister
of
fans out there,
Smartphone,
this
you-
might be the anime for you.
Oh my god.
look, it's an isekai with questionable moral intent, and so that means it's going to be extremely popular. Season 2, I think the author will come out of hiatus when he realizes how much merchandising money this is making. Yeah. See, I feel like this is like the perfect shitsto of an anime creation. I think I took this approach mainly because I like to write and stuff, so I didn't want to waste a good idea on
on this.
But,
yeah, that's fair.
So I came up with a great idea with different intent, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I guess the other thing that comes to mind is what would you say are your biggest inspirations for this idea?
My biggest inspirations, well,
like other shows.
Every season,
books,
I always watch I always watch some absolute trash, guaranteed.
Oh my god.
I always make sure to have one trash in there, and then I also plop in some isekais, just mainly, I think now I'll only look at an isekai if it has like an interesting premise that I haven't seen done.
Do you know that game Katamari Damacy or whatever?
No, I don't.
It's like you roll up trash or like stuff and you just keep rolling it and like collecting it. This is the culmination of your years of, like, I don't know about years, but the numerous seasons of watching these types of isekai. This is the magnum
This
opus.
is what it was all for.
Yes.
This is this is your anime MC moment. Everything you learned up to this point has come together to give you
your final
this.
exam. It's your final exam.
That is one way to put it. I think that basically, like I just said, I don't watch isekai unless they have like some quirky, like, plot point, I guess. Like Skeleton Knight, I read the description. It was just a shittier overlord, and so I skipped it. Actually,
Watched episode 1, unfortunately.
I don't even know what isekais I have this season. Other one, Bookworm. Let me look real quick. I actually think Bookworm might be the only one. I think there's like an isekai.
Bookworm's the only one that I can think of
okay.
that you would be
Hero,
watching.
Season 2.
Oh yeah, Shield Hero.
I am behind considerably on that, but
I'm still in season 1.
But yeah, Bookworm and Shield Hero seem to be the only isekai. I don't remember why I watched Shield Hero. I think I didn't watch episode 1 of it, I think. And then, but this, like, back when it, like, came out. But then everyone was, like, hyping it up, and so I checked it out. Ended up watching the whole thing. And then, Bookworm, I just heard it was good. I never watched it initially when it came out, so I didn't have as much interest in it initially. But then I watched it. And it's good.
Shield Hero is an interesting case. I kind of want to save big Shield Hero talk for the inevitable day that we have an episode where we just talk about isekais in depth. But it's Shield Hero is like a really interesting case study for kind of like the limits and strengths of isekais and what makes them good or bad.
Yeah, I think at some point you begin to realize that you only care so much about whether it's good or bad as opposed to like watchable, I guess. I think everyone like consumes the next shitty isekai, hoping that it will be like the not shitty isekai. Like
Only to
you'll look
discover
at,
it was exactly what it looked like.
or it was just good to begin with. Like Bookworm came out in 2019. Like by that point, isekai was like completely saturated. Right, we'd already had like ReZero, Shield Hero, all this other stuff, and then if you look at Bookworm, you're like, oh, just another isekai, and you'll skip over it probably. But if you just skip over it, then you end up missing out on like an actually decent show. So I guess it's kind of why I watch things that look like they might be garbage, because I may just enjoy them. Yes, for my other inspiration for this anime.
Really fishing for a specific one.
I know what you're fishing for, but the problem with that is that the sisters in that are actually older.
Are
Believe it or
they?
not.
Wait, really?
And the one with the X in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're older.
They're older?
Yeah.
Wait, there's an X in the middle? Bro,
What are you doing? Yeah.
what show?
Spy X Family.
Oh, I
What
thought you were talking
other
about
show do you
ReZero.
think
No,
there-
not Spy
No.
X Family. Don't throw them off like that. That one.
Yes, that one.
That one.
Which one?
And we
In
will
the
have
group
a
chat,
have a
but-
deep discussion about this one.
Kiss
day.
Exist. Oh, your favorite. Oh, okay. Dude, I thought you were talking about ReZero this entire time, and I was like, wait a minute. Are Rem and Ram older than Subaru? And I'm like,
I think they are
Are they-
actually.
Are they actually?
Yeah, I'm
Okay, you know
pretty
what?
sure they
I was
are.
right. I was right by proxy.
They're also like in no way, shape, or form his sisters. Even in
Yeah,
like a
I don't-
non-blood related sense, they're still
Okay.
not his sisters.
You know what? You're right. You're right.
And with that, we're gonna move on from this before we go down a road we don't want to go down.
Oh no.
We're at like 27 minutes anyway. I think this is around my like 25-minute mark. I don't remember how
All right.
quickly I started, but
Yeah.
next up was Hike, I believe.
All
You have to give
right.
your dissertation.
Yeah. So everyone who knows me kind of knows that I was only going to go one or two directions with this. It was either going to be a sports anime, which kind of boring, kind of hype. I would love the idea of doing a sports, but instead I decided to make a battle shonen because that's just what we need is the next great battle shonen. You know? Black Clover is on hiatus.
a
My
trend.
Hero dropping in quality very quickly. One Piece, 5 years left, just like they said 5 years ago. So, you
I'm
you
sure
never
they'll be
know
saying
when
that
we're
in
going to
another 10
run
years.
out. Yeah, so name of it is Starstorm Omega. I don't know why. I had to come up with a name because the backstory for this is growing up, me and my best friend had this imaginary superheroes game we used to play that we would just call like Fireman and Iceman. He was Fireman, I was Iceman, and we would go fight imaginary villains because we were 8 years old. And it was super hype. And when I was thinking of stuff that I wanted to turn into this anime idea that we did, I was just like, why don't I just make that imaginary story into an anime? So there's going to be a lot of things that I stole directly from our 8-year-old brains and a lot of things that I changed up to give it a story. So, synopsis. Most of this I had to make up to come up with a reason for why we had fire and ice powers. But basically, the world, Earth, has reached a point where there is such an instability that we start to see these super disasters of nature appear, giant blizzard storms, tsunamis, earthquakes, all of that. And I'm not just talking about the 2020s when I say that, but it's gotten even worse to this point where these giant disasters show up, and usually after each disaster there will be one or multiple survivors of the disaster that have had some sort of physical change due to the disaster happening. And so then they will have superpowers directly related to whatever disaster it was they survived. And then also, in the wake of these disasters, there's a lot of changes to the landscapes and the wildlife of the areas that causes a lot of issues on Earth. You know, rabid animals that also have ice powers from this giant blizzard that came out and stuff like that. And so a lot of these superpowered humans kind of form groups to protect the world from these issues. And that is pretty much the synopsis going into the show. It starts off pretty simple. The MC, who was based on me, he doesn't really have a name. We can just call him PK if we want, but that's kind of lame.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he if this turned into an anime, he would probably be given an actual name. But he's an ice user. Obviously, he survived a massive snowstorm. In terms of physical changes he underwent, he has kind of snow white hair and also these really light blue, almost white, like vibrant, glowing eyes. In terms of character, he's very strategic in nature, has a strong sense of justice. He's kind of like the prototypical, MC who is not a bitch. In the sense that, the opposite of me, of course. No, in the sense that he's the type of MC who's driven a lot of times by doing what he considers to be the right thing in a smart way, and not necessarily driven by, just wanting to be super strong and fighting like you would see characters like a Natsu in Fairy Tail. But we do have our own Natsu in this, created back in like 2000, which is the other MC known as Zane, the fireman or the fire base user that we had, who's super, super powerful. And when we first meet him, he's just kind of going around challenging people because he's just strong and he wants to fight people and have fun fighting people. And actually, the first introduction between the MC and Zane is him challenging the MC to a fight, and then eventually they come out of it as friends. And now he just kind of hangs around with the MC, helps him with some of this stuff, and also while, trying to go on these big missions to save places that the MC wants to keep safe, he will go out of his way to find the strongest enemies to test himself against. Because we definitely needed someone who was absolutely power hungry to be kind of the foil to the MC, who really, at the beginning of the series, doesn't really give too much of a shit about how strong he is. He just kind of wants to be strong enough to save people.
I see.
So,
Nice.
Main enemies. So there's 3 I want to talk about. It's kind of the natural enemy of both of our main characters, and then also the main enemy of Act 1, which is pretty much all that's been developed of this story, is Act 1. That was around the time that we were in our team.
Unconfirmed.
Well, yeah, there is a blueprint for future acts, but I would say Act 1 is kind of where we were in our teens, and we're kind of over playing imaginary superhero games. So the first main antagonist is named Marshall. I don't know why he's named Marshall. It actually makes no sense, but that is canonically the name that we gave him in the story. So his actual name is Marshall, and he is the self-proclaimed champion of Earth, who has awakened these plant-based nature powers. Think of it as, he controls plants in a kind of a destructive way, shoots roots at you, stuff like that, can make trees grow in an instant. He has these...
Bellsprout.
Yeah,
Like Bellsprout.
exactly. Just like Bellsprout, of course. And because he has these nature-based powers, and Earth is a very nature-based planet, he's pretty much decided in his head that clearly he is the chosen one of Earth, the guy who has been given powers meant to lead Earth to a new horizon past all these issues. He's kind of like the evil force of justice in a way, where he is trying to kind of take control of the Earth in a way where he sees himself as the one who can lead Earth out of these issues, but he's also very toxically into the idea of him being the one who unites everyone to get past everything, which of course is, direct foil to the ice-based MC, who is just like, no, people should be able to choose what they do, or something along those lines. And it's a big conflict of ideals. And I also kind of liked the symbolism of the MC kind of being symbolic to winter, and this guy being kind of symbolic to like a spring or something like that, in the opposite sense, where his big thing for the enemy is that he sees the MC ice user as kind of the biggest obstacle to him becoming, the champion of Earth that he sees himself as, the character who brings spring. And so the next, aside from him, I guess the other important thing about him, which I maybe don't want to admit once you hear all about this, is that he is the father of the female main character of this story.
Okay.
So there is a female main. However, she has been almost entirely not developed because she was a character that was created by me after my elementary school crush. I'm not entirely proud to admit that, and obviously she never made an appearance in the series. But for the anime, we need a female main character, and so there is one. She
We're
just doesn't
not
have a
gonna
character.
Go into detail on that.
Yeah, she consider her a supporting character for now, because I didn't want to create I didn't want to create a character for her. It is also true that I think, based on the nature of what I would consider her character to be, she is someone who would probably become more of an important character after the initial introduction of, Marshall and stuff like that. I don't think she would be a character that's around before him and then be, it becomes a plot point. I think she's more likely to be someone who shows up around the same time as him. So it's less important to me that I introduce her yet, but she does exist.
I see.
And then we didn't make a name for this next character because we had the enemy of Fireman, who is Blue Fireman. And I can't have that be his name, so we're just going to call him X. Because I don't want to make a name for him, because I don't even know what it would be. But he's compared to Marshall, who's kind of this agent of a pseudo form of justice, he's kind of the agent of chaos that just kind of throws shit in the fan in a way that really disrupts everything. And he also has fire, which is blue, if that wasn't obvious from his introduction, which makes him the big enemy of Zane. And there are epic fights of them. And then we also discover in Act 2 that they are twin brothers from a place that will be revealed later in this discussion, because I don't want to talk about it quite yet. But fire-based powers in brothers, just a reminder. We made this idea in the early 2000s. So if you're thinking of comparing this idea to other anime, just know we made this idea before. Anyway, that's all I have to say, because that is a trend. There are a few other things that will come up that I'm like, man, our idea kind of got jacked. Kind of didn't. We might just not be creative.
I'm gonna be on. You're gonna be fine. I made a little Sister Isekai. It can't go much. It can't go more downhill than that.
I know. I just think it's funny to see some of the things that we came up in our like 10-year-old brains, and then be like, there's actually a thing that like does that little piece.
So what you're telling me is this is going to happen if I don't recycle. This is what happens to the world.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the world that the environmentalists asked us to fear.
Yeah, that's like the hidden message here that we discover kind of near the end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2, is that the reason why the world has become so unstable is because of, the destruction of global forces. When we'll talk about the end of Act 1 in a second. When, the world has deteriorated basically to the point where it's being almost attacked by these forces of other, stars and celestial bodies outside of it. And because of those forces, all these disasters are showing up, which is a more extreme version of, a commentary on global warming as it is today. But on to the rest of X's character, because I actually think that there is a somewhat fun aspect to his character, because he's kind of the anti-hero of this when we start getting to the end of Act 1, end of Act 2, in the sense that we discover the meaning of these powers popping up, which is basically that every planet is choosing random beings across the solar system with their bloodlines to be candidates to be the planet's champion, which is just a fancy way of saying the strongest being of that race, right?
Like Hunger Games.
No, but
No.
sure. Not at all, to be honest.
God damn it.
But yeah, so the reason why he is kind of this agent of chaos is because he's trying to lure out the strongest people who have been affected by these disasters to speed up their development as candidates to become these champions, because the idea being there can only be one champion for each planet, so if you awaken them all, the disasters will stop. That's his ideology with that. We learn that near the end of Act 1 because the enemy at the end of Act 1 is a character called King Cobra.
Okay.
Basically, think of him somewhat similar to Thanos in the sense that he is a alien envoy who's come to Earth to destroy it because the Earth has destabilized to a point that it is beginning to cause issues across the solar system. And so, in the interest of the greater good of the solar system, he has decided that the Earth needs to be destroyed. And it is the only way to solve these big issues. Side note, he is also the named champion of Mars. So he's the first character that we've met shortly after the discovery of what the powers are and why they're awakening that has actually obtained the title of, or the seat, I guess, of being the champion of a planet. We also find out during those info dumps that the power that you awaken to is directly related to the planet which you have been chosen to kind of compete for the seat of. And the other implication of that is that means somewhere inside of your ancestry you have the bloodlines of the beings from that planet. Which brings into question, why are there so many different powers on Earth? The answer is coincidentally 2,000 years ago, coincidentally, the date 0 AD, the Earth kind of shut itself off from the other planets of the solar system and became this, solo, closed off from the rest of the solar system, does its own thing type of society. And so immigration into Earth stopped. Other races stopped being able to visit or anything. But before that moment, Earth was kind of a hotspot. People loved to visit Earth, move to Earth. Beautiful planet, has a lot of good greenery that you don't see on any other the other planets. Great place for vacations. Great place to move for retirement. So there's a lot of other races, bloods mixed into the beings we know as today's Earthlings. All right. So that's Act 1.
Oh boy.
We learn all of this type of stuff. That's the only part of the story that's really made. But here's kind of the synopsis. So at the end of Act 1, we've kind of concluded the Earth section, I guess. We've dealt with everything on Earth to some degree. We've learned that there's all these solar system-wide issues and all this type of stuff. And so in the interest of discovering what the hell is going on, why is all this happening now, all of a sudden, the two main characters actually split up to go to opposite sides of the solar system in the search of the truth and the reasons behind this. Specifically, the main character with ice powers goes to the far end of the solar system, Pluto, which is the planet that his bloodline is associated with. And then Zane, the fire-based user, goes to the sun. Because clearly, if we're going to space, we need to have an arc in the sun. And I don't know how that is going to work.
I can just visit it at night.
But yeah, exactly. But something about him going to the sun. There's also, I don't even want to get to it too much, but there are limitations to the powers that they have. It's not like they can just like catch fire or do throw ice or something like that. But it's not worth getting into the specifics. But it is important to note that sometimes the ways they use their powers is kind of what affiliates them. For example, there are fire-based users who could be based in Mercury a lot of times. So there's a little mystery at the beginning of this story. As Zane goes out, he thinks he's from Mercury. And so he goes to Mercury, and they're just kind of like, that's not one of their powers. And he discovers that his power is not actually fire, but it's combustion. Which
Wait, isn't that just fire?
leads him... Yeah, it is. But I'm not a
specifically
scientist.
Fire. All right.
Oh, okay, dude.
I'm not a scientist. But basically, it's the idea that he kind of goes towards Mercury thinking like, oh, this is where the fire-based users come from. And then it's this big, crazy thing where they're like, you're not from here. You're from the sun. Doo-doo-doo. There's also a bunch of politics in this section. You get into like planetary politics. We discover that, whatever year it was that Pluto was no longer recognized as a planet coincides with the invasion of the Neptunian army on Pluto and the subsequent destruction of the Plutonian race, which is something that is discovered when the MC ends up there. It basically discovers that, he is the last surviving member of the Plutonian race, even though it's been 2,000 years since aliens have been allowed on Earth. So there's also an implication that I don't know what percentage of his blood is Plutonian, but it is most certainly not pure.
So that's why Pluto isn't a planet anymore.
Yes, Pluto is no longer a planet because all of the inhabitants have been murdered by the Neptunians. That is the lore.
NASA was up to some bullshit.
And final antagonists of this arc, I assume, would probably be the champion of Neptune. I haven't really thought that far ahead. I haven't made the character, but I feel like that would kind of be a good enemy for the MC to have at the end. Especially since his character has always kind of been this like justice but doesn't care about being strong type of thing. It would be kind of fun for him to be faced off against another strong character to kind of force him to grow to the point of his peers, like Zane, who is a character that's just solely based around firepower. And then Zane, and then Zane goes to the sun. I don't know if he would even have an antagonist or what it would be, but goes there, discovers things, and then it goes into Act 3. At this point, all of the planets have kind of made up for the most part. Most of the champion candidates have been decided, and so all of the champions go to group up and travel to Andromeda, because that's the only place that solar system stories go is Andromeda. And in Andromeda, they will probably meet whoever it is who's fucking up the solar system, or whatever it is that's fucking up the solar system. I kind of just had to think about how this ends. I thought it would be fun for Act 2 to be the world building and meet all of the solar system, and then Act 3 is discover and solve the issue. And
Right.
so that's where we land off. You go to Andromeda, beat the final boss. I think the final boss would probably not be a new character, but I don't know who it would be at this point. I think that I would have to come up with the character and then write them back in the story, so it's not like a cringe final arc boss only showed up for the final arc type of thing.
Right.
And then the last thing that I'll try and go through quick because I am running very long on time. But it's a battle shonen, therefore we have to go over powers. So there's 4 basic forms of powers or power-ups in the series. First one is the core powers, which all of the celestial candidates, as I like to call them, are given from these disasters. They are all powers related in some way to the planet that they are a candidate for. After that point, these powers start to grow, and once they become too strong, they start to affect nature negatively, type of things like main character walking around and there is constantly a blizzard following him, or something along those lines. Once they've reached that point, all the characters must enter into a pact with spirits. And this is one of the funny points that I was talking about earlier with potential plagiarisms. We had spirits associated to the main character that was a wolf, and a spirit associated to Zame that was a phoenix. And then Mega Man Star Force, I believe 6 came out, and they had the exact same animals as the cover characters that Mega Man's main powers would be associated with. About 5 years after we came up with this idea, and I thought it was the funniest thing when it came out because I was like, they are listening to us. There's just no way.
Maybe.
Beyond that, around the end of Act 1, we kind of get into these ancient powers that are basically, I don't have a great name for them, but they're basically, they alter the laws of the universe. Like they're limit break type abilities. And the main idea and main reason these exist is because my ice character is able to freeze time at some point in the series. Because for some reason that makes sense. But it was one of the powers that we thought was the most fun when we were making the series. So we decided to expand upon that and make it so these are the powers that are all awakened by the champion candidates. Once you've awakened the ancient power of your planet, you have essentially been recognized as the champion. And it's also important because at the end of Act 1, we meet the champion of Mars who has awakened his ancient power. Therefore, we clearly need to have our own. Otherwise, we'll get our asses kicked. And there is one more power that I haven't made, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's the celestial powers. It's basically the culmination of whatever celestial body that you represent becoming the highest form of power that you can have.
All right.
And that is Star Storm Omega.
Well, I'm glad I went first, so I didn't have to follow that one up with the Emoto Sakai. But let's go over some of these. So 0 AD was when stuff started
Yes.
to normalize on Earth. So does that make Jesus the champion of Earth?
Potentially. I think that there is a good argument for the fact that the death of Jesus may have been the death of the last champion of Earth, and that has some sort of connection to all of the things, both politically and non-politically, that happen after 0 AD.
I see. I feel like I had other. Okay. You said not to compare
So
these
this is-
things, but I'm gonna compare this. This is like Data Live, but without the harem plot. Is the best
Is
way
it? I haven't
No,
seen
true,
Data
true.
Live. I haven't seen Data Live, so
So Data
it's
Live,
interesting.
it's like ignoring the harem plot of it. The main premise or whatever is that there are these disasters called spatial quakes that'll like randomly pop up or whatever, and what they actually are is there's these things called spirits that appear in the world, and they'll like have different powers and stuff. And so it's kind of like this, except
Yeah, it's almost like I separated those ideas into like a few different things because I have spirits as a plot point at some point, but it's not directly related to powers. It's more so the spirits help with containing powers.
yeah. So
Which
Okay,
is kind of
so-
similar to Tensura when I think about it.
Okay, so you know how I said that Daniel's thing was like the Katamari Damacy thing of like rolling out the trash? Is this the
Yeah.
culmination of several hundreds of episodes of One Piece?
Yeah, but funny enough, you say that, and that's fair. I think it's just several thousand episodes of me watching Battle Shonens and also having grown up the best friend of a huge comic buff.
Dude, would you say Pokemon is a battle shonen? Isn't it? Doesn't it have
Yeah, I'd
battles?
say
I don't
Pokemon's a
know
Battle
if I
Shonen.
Okay, so
call it
that's the only one
Battle
I've seen.
Shonen.
I do think that looking back and looking at a lot of these things, especially King Korba, I mentioned that he's very similar to Thanos in the way that he's represented. I know my best friend was huge into Marvel comics. So I actually do wonder looking back if this is, purposely an inspiration for his character. But for me, I was just kind of playing along because it's fun. I didn't really read a lot of like Marvel comics or anything until I was older.
Uh, Let me see. Oh, okay. I thought that Thanos was going to be like a late stage character, but he was first made in 1973, apparently. So I guess,
Yep.
though, I don't know if his comic version had the same ideals as the
As the
other one.
movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that the Endgame material is definitely based on comics. Like it's definitely something that takes place in comics. So I imagine that at some point he does have those ideals, but I don't necessarily know that that's always a part of his character or if that's something that would be developed.
Yeah. Anyway, we're an anime podcast, so fuck Marvel.
True.
We don't need to. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. Comics are weird anyway. No, it's so like complicated. They have like a million timelines and stuff. Um. Anyway, I was gonna say something. Fuck. Okay, so all these people who got powers, right?
hmm
Um. So how long has this been going on in the world? Like how long? When did these disasters start?
So disasters started popping up mainly in the last probably 20 to 30 years from the current year of the story. We don't really know when it takes place exactly, but I'd say probably like
10 years from now?
yeah, exactly. No, I'd say probably like you know the somewhat distant future from now, but in still somewhat of a reality that's recognizable.
Okay.
I would think of this as like maybe like 2050 if I had to just guess a
Wow,
year.
that's pretty close,
Oh,
yeah.
you're like the reverse data live.
Yeah,
Every story started
it's
like 30 years in the past or something.
that's fair. I think of it as I would want it to be in a time frame where everything that we have today technology wise is at least represented. And so it's easier for me to go a little bit into the future. Plus it kind of helps with that whole meta, explanations about, global warming and kind of the effects of how that on like a massive solar system scale has weakened the earth to the point where all these other celestial bodies are basically just zapping people on earth who have their blood to be like, you are worthy to become a champion, question mark.
So all these people. So is there like a group of people who get powers and they don't do anything with them, or is it like do the
Absolutely.
powers? So it's like okay, so they don't like target people who are gonna actually use them to fight to determine this champion thing.
It's somewhat random. I, as the author, do not have currently a criteria that I feel like needs to be met because I think it's more interesting and you have a wider variety of characters that you can look over if it is at least seemingly random. There could be some sort of requirement met at some point in time that I could think of that would maybe build into that, but I also think it's kind of funny if you had like filler episodes or like just little arcs where there's these random superpowered people who just like don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. I think that having those types of characters is something that makes the story more fun. But I will note, I would still say that the people with powers are a pretty decently small minority of the human race. It's not like My Hero where like 80% of the population or whatever has powers. I would say at most like 5% of the population, maybe. Just also keep in mind that these super disasters, the people who get superpowers are the ones who survive them because they're like specifically chosen by the disaster to like awaken those powers. But like a lot of people die in these disasters too, and stuff like that. So it is worth noting that like just because a disaster happens and someone comes out of it with powers, it's not like an isolated incident or anything too.
Yeah, it sounds like the population just needed to get good and get chosen instead.
Yeah, it's kind of I think one of the things that made me think of this synopsis, um, which isn't really related to the show very much, but it was Seraph of the End, with the whole idea of like the trumpets being out in the world, kind of just causing big disasters and stuff like that. When you start to get into like the somewhat world building ends of that, or not the trumpets, but the Johns or whatever. I don't remember what they're called. Four
I
Horsemen.
haven't seen Sarah for the End, so
I haven't seen that either.
That's fair. It really doesn't have much to do with this synopsis, but I was still kind of thinking of this idea of a post-apocalyptic world with these like crazy wildlife out in it and all sorts of stuff like that. And I was just kind of thinking, like, how does the world get to this post-apocalyptic point, and also connect it to space? Because I kind of just felt like it would be fun to connect this story to space.
All right, I think we're gonna move on to good
overtime.
old
Yep.
Spat next. I went over a little
Let's
more
go.
than I expected, but I didn't
Let's
want
go.
to stop you without getting the questions. So, yep, Spat, go on ahead.
Okay. So I'll kind of structure it differently, or like not that differently, but I'll start off describing what's going on, and then I want you guys to guess where it's going. Okay?
I see.
That sound good?
Yeah,
You guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do this. Okay, so the title of my anime, it's like really uncreative, but I couldn't really think of a title. I'm really bad at thinking of titles. I stared at my screen for like, I was writing a research paper. I stared at my screen for like 15 minutes, legit, just thinking of a title. So I'm terrible at it. It's called Classroom from Hell. It is what it is. The genre is, yeah, the genre is, I guess you can call it a mystery, but it has some like slice of life elements, I guess. You'll see when you understand more about why I called it slice of life. But I think the main thing is mystery or like suspense, kind of. And I guess some drama elements, but like every show has some drama elements, right? So okay, so here's how it starts, right? So you're introduced to a student, okay, and he starts off in hell, legitimately hell, okay, the underworld, where Satan or Lucifer, whoever resides.
Right.
But in hell, instead of just like burning to death or whatever people in hell do, I have no idea. They have to take classes, right? So I'm a big like.
Sounds like hell
See,
to me.
yeah, no, it's
It does
okay.
sound like hell.
You know what?
Oh, man.
You know what? I didn't think that one through, but you're absolutely right. So, like, for me personally, I think if something is going to be fake in an anime, I need to have something that's real, something that I, as a person, can connect to, and I can connect to school, unfortunately, right? And that's I think most people can connect to it in some way. There's some like element of realisticness,
Yeah.
reality to it, right? So the students in the hell in these classrooms, right? They have to take classes on the 7 like sins or whatever of like the vices, like lust, gluttony,
Yeah.
7 deadly sins.
sloth, right? And if they learn and if they like pass exams and stuff, they can graduate to heaven. Okay,
I see.
but until then, they're stuck and it's miserable. It's all that. As you mentioned, school is maybe hell for some people, but it's hell, so it's extremely hot. There's like people double dying everywhere.
Double.
So yeah, it's
dying.
hell on top of the classroom.
What happens if you
Now
double
the key
die?
thing here. Go ahead.
What happens if you
Get
double die?
You reincarnate there's
In
probably like an
hell?
anime that starts with that word.
Do you go to super hell?
Super.
Yeah, super hell. Yeah, there's a second level. It's a second level.
Yeah, you
You
know
have
how
to
There's
like
infinite
pass
levels.
more
There are
tests
infinite
to get out.
in like
super
Greek
hell.
mythology they have super heaven. You could have super hell. If you die 3 times, you go to super hell.
Yeah, it's a hat trick.
Okay.
There you go.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So okay. So the key thing, right? So we have these people taking classes in this hell classroom about the 7 sins. I think we call it sins. And basically, the whole point of these classes are to kind of improve the people of hell. So they likely were in hell because they, did something as a result of these sins. So, for example, someone might have killed someone out of jealousy, or stole something out of envy, or did all these kinds of bad things. So the whole point is to kind of rehabilitate them, and they do this through these classes that teach people to resist these sins. Okay.
I have a
Now
question
the
in
difference
relation
is,
to the
what's that?
classes. So if I go to hell, right,
Uh huh.
and I'm enrolled in this school, am I
This is canon,
required?
by the way. This is real hell. But yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
ahead.
Am I required to take every class, or is it just the ones that like I'm qualified
Oh, that's a
for?
very good question. That's a very good question. You are required to take every class just to become a more well-rounded individual.
Okay, gotcha,
Okay.
got it. So like still have to go to the
Yeah.
greed class, even if I'm
Yeah.
like the least greedy person
Yeah.
ever, because I
Right.
was also the laziest sloth piece of shit.
Correct.
That
Correct.
gotcha.
Right. And the thing is, if you're able to pass those classes, you get to go to heaven, right? Once you passed all seven, essentially. I haven't thought about the exam structure and all of that. I don't really want to think about the structure of a school right now.
What happens
But
if I pass like one? Do I get like a merit of some sort? Can I like go around the school wearing like my greed badge?
oh, like a badge, like a little
Yeah,
badge. Yes, that's a great
I
idea. You
think
should
it'd
get
be
like a
kind
little
of
pin on your
fun.
school uniform.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun if everyone had pins for like the classes that they pass, and
Like
it
Team
kind
Plus
of
One
Genius.
gives
badges.
you like a hierarchy of
Do
some
you want to be
sorts.
the administrator at my school in hell?
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Okay, let's
I
go.
mean, it's a real school, so I guess
Right. It's
you know,
real. It's literally what might happen. I'm not going to say anything,
yeah,
but
what may happen or may
right.
not. Who knows? We'll find out.
Right, exactly. And once you pass all of these, you get to go to heaven. So that's great, right? But the difference is the main character, he should have trouble resisting some of these things, greed. Maybe they're teaching him how to not be greedy, but, some of the other students are struggling with that, which is why they're not passing. And they're stuck there for eternity, by the way, if they don't go to heaven. But the main character, he doesn't actually experience these things. So he should pass, right? Um, he's able to resist it and pass everything. But for whatever reason, his test scores are pretty bad. So he never actually passes. So basically, do you see what's happening to the main character? He's stuck there for eternity, right?
Yep.
So so why do you guys think what do you guys think might be the reason for the reason he's stuck there for eternity?
Um, so that's a
Why
good
doesn't
one.
he experience those those sins, and why don't they ever pass him?
So he doesn't
He,
experience sins.
Right.
So he doesn't like
Mm-hmm.
do anything, but they don't
Yep.
they don't pass him.
he's the
Right.
demon king of hell, destined to always be the ruler of hell for all
Ooh, that's a
time.
very good one.
Yeah, I was thinking
Keep
somewhere
that.
along the lines of like
Yep.
Satan's child. Like you know how like in Greek
Child.
mythology we mentioned it earlier. Like the gods would just go down to earth and just fuck, and then create kids and
Mm-hmm.
go back. It's something like that.
Mm-hmm. A demigod.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. They're two very great theories. So basically, the whole it's like kind of a development of the anime. The first season, by the way, the first season. We're working on the second season. It's in development, and we're still kind of deciding what direction we want to take. But
Right.
the first season, right, starts off, and he's kind of like, you know, going through typical slice of life things of like a classroom anime, right? Where there's a bully, there's a best friend, um, there are typical class things, doing some science experiment in class. Science experiment, it's hell. Nothing's an experiment there. Let's be honest. And he after a certain point, he's kind of gotten used to being stuck there for eternity. But after a while, he starts to question himself. Why don't I pass these classes, even though I'm I don't experience any of these sins. I shouldn't fail at any of these tasks. And he asks himself why he can't reach heaven and why he doesn't feel sinful, but he's stuck in hell, right? So that's kind of what you guys are getting to. So the spoiler alert for anyone interested in this anime that will be adapted as a manga and a light novel.
Oh yeah.
wait, so it's
And
anime original
Anime
going to be
original.
right,
adapted? Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
and a video game,
And a video
Okay,
game. Is
it's
it
like
a
it's like the new
visual novel?
Hogwarts game, right? You get to be
Oh
in
yeah,
hell
I
school.
do know what you're talking about. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Hogwarts.
dude, the new Hogwarts game looks crazy, right? That's like this. This is the classroom from hell, right?
I remember there was like a
That's-
really old Hogwarts game that my cousin used
There
to
are,
play.
yeah.
That was
They were like
actually like
original
kind
ones
of
from
hype.
each of the Harry Potter movies. Yeah, I
Harry
had one
Potter,
of those as a
not an
kid.
anime.
I've
Sadly,
never watched or read Harry Potter.
That's crazy. That's so messed up. Whatever. Okay.
you're really not missing that much, despite what
No,
people
dude, Harry
say.
Potter's based. Harry Potter's based. Harry Potter haters can suck it, dude.
It's fine. I don't like regret reading it, but I like don't think I would go up to someone and be like, "This is the greatest thing ever. You need to read
No,
this."
no, of course not. Of course not. Of course
I
not.
was more of a
But it's
Percy
enjoyable.
Jackson kid,
So, what can I say about it? Right? I enjoyed it. Anyway, point is, we're looking to adapt this anime into different forms of media, right? So, spoilers. Yeah, I think it was PK who mentioned it. He finds out he's actually Satan himself, right?
It's like the reincarnation of Satan.
Yes,
The
yes, exactly.
reincarnation of Satan. Let's go.
Yeah, and that's why he can't pass. He's stuck there because he has to rule his kingdom, right? He's meant to rule his kingdom.
Right.
Yeah, and that's when season 2 starts, and that we're in production.
And we're not sure what happens after that, but he has
We're not
discovered
sure.
that he is like the rightful ruler of
Right.
hell itself. So okay. The biggest
Yeah, this is
question
just
I
one
have
sector of hell. This is just
here,
one sector of hell. Go ahead.
yeah, that's what I wanted to know. The biggest question I had is there more to hell than just the classroom? Because I imagine now that we've discovered this will kind of similar to when I talked about how we started on Earth and then we expanded to the solar system. This feels like season 1. You're going to be basically only in the classroom, and then you're going to kind of slowly expand to the other sections of hell.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's a very good question. That's a good idea for season 2 because if you think about it, the classroom might not be. Well,
I think it might
I'm
get kind of
thinking for season
stale
2.
once you discover that the MC's, future developments aren't necessarily directly tied to the classroom, or maybe they are.
Yeah, so that's
Maybe
what I was
in
thinking.
season 2 we discover that like there is some purpose in him staying in the classroom.
Yeah, so I was thinking like he can come up with new solutions to try to get out to escape. So he's just trying to figure out, maybe he finds out he's Satan, but that doesn't really like help him.
And maybe he denies it, or is like, I still want to go to heaven for
Yes,
a period
exactly.
of time, and so
he
it
tries
kind
to
of
find out what's going on. Why doesn't he pass? Why doesn't he pass? So he like, sneaks into the teacher's room. Finds the grades. Finds that they've been changing his grades. Stuff like that. Yeah, that's season 2. Those are some good ideas. I like
season
that.
2 content, season 2 theories. Honestly, hasn't
Season
even been
2
written
theory.
yet.
What's that?
Hasn't even been written yet, so none of this is confirmed, obviously.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
some theories to think about for those of you
Right.
eagerly awaiting season 2. In the
Of
meantime,
course.
check out the video game.
Yeah, the video game's only being adapted for season 1.
Yeah.
So the main characters, right?
Season
The
2
main
is
characters
DLC.
I'm looking at. What's that?
So season 2 is DLC.
No, not DLC.
Microtransactions.
Listen, Daniel. Listen, we're gonna have to cut this out of the recording. Listen, I don't want to say DLC. We don't use that language around here, but you might have to pay a little bit extra for season 2. Yeah, maybe.
And
A little bit of
that's
microtransactions.
crazy.
A little bit of microtransactions.
Anyway.
The characters. I think especially since the classroom is kind of the focus for season 1, right? I think just like a standard like classroom cast would work really well. And obviously, since we're dealing with like, hello,
Did we all just die? I'm so confused.
No,
we were still here.
I died. I don't know what
Oh.
happened. Everything just went
Okay.
silent.
We can cut. Okay. Let me know when you're. Can I continue? We can just.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It was like
Okay, I'll just. Yeah, that's fine. So for the characters, since we're doing a school focus for season 1, we're just doing like a standard school cast of like a school bully and nerd guy, best friend.
Is there a
general
love
school.
interest?
Yes, a waifu. Yeah, of course. You have to appease the anime watchers of the world, right?
Well, I just thought about it because, like, in the episode 1, we talked about our top 10s. One of the shows I mentioned that I really liked is Assassination Classroom, which has, similar setup, completely opposite themes, but
Right.
similar setup. And I think that that's one of the things that actually Assassination Classroom benefited from, is not having a super strong like love interest plot line of any type. Shippers will always be able to find ships with male and female characters, but there wasn't really a plot line dedicated around the MC having a love interest.
Right. Yeah, this one definitely has it, and we'll see the love interest potentially helping out the main character in season 2. Do you guys have a good name for the main character, by the way? I was thinking Bob, but I think that lacks a little bit of charm.
Both of our main characters were named MC. I don't think we are the people to
Wait,
ask.
so I have
No, wait, what was the no?
I have a
Daniel had
question.
the it's like Gil. No, that wasn't the main.
No,
character.
that wasn't the main character. Emgil was the Angel Lord's little sister.
Right. And Nuts D's
Nuts D's was the
was
Demon Lord.
Demon Lord. Right. Okay. Yeah. So
I have a question.
okay, we'll call him MC then. We'll call him MC.
So you mentioned that like failing these tests get you sent to the super hell or whatever.
Oh
So
no,
if you keep
failing is fine.
dying again. So how do you die again? Just because it's
That's a good
hard?
question. Well, I mean, the flames of hell, right? If you fall into a
If you
fire,
fail all
you're gonna
7 classes, you're executed.
die. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. I think
So like they just, I don't know. I feel like there's a longevity issue on if like that you fail, you die.
yeah, no. If you fail, you don't die. It's fine.
Okay.
You just die if you like fall into one of the flaming pits of hell.
Are they just like scattered around?
Yeah, scattered around.
Like,
exactly.
if I'm
Part of the
just
environment.
walking through
Cover up
the
a flaming pit with some leaves.
yeah, if I'm just
Yeah.
like walking through the hallway, is there a chance that if
Yeah.
I'm not paying attention,
Okay.
I just fall into a flaming pit of hell?
Yeah. Dude, do you remember in like school you would play the game where you like don't step on lava?
Oh,
it's like that.
you're
But
right.
It's real.
Okay,
It's
How
real.
to
down.
step on the right
You
tile.
sold me. You've sold
Yeah,
me on it.
exactly. Just step on the red tile that's like 5,000 degrees. Yeah,
So I have
exactly.
two more thoughts. One somewhat important and one not important at all. So obviously we'll start with the not important one. Is there a lunch period in this classroom of
Do you
hell?
need
There
to
has
eat
to be.
in
There
hell?
has to be. What do you eat? Oh
So
my gosh.
do you need to eat in hell is a fantastic question that we don't need an answer for. But I do think that lunchtime as a quote class period just gives you a lot of opportunity to like mess with characters, since
Right.
traditionally in classes there's a limit to how much characters can really interact or do things.
Right. Yeah, I like the idea of a lunch break. Yeah, we'll have those for sure.
And obviously we'll be walking through the halls and that type of stuff too, which serves the same purpose. So my second thought, and this is kind of just looking at anime in general and thinking about trends that anime have, specifically with the 7 deadly sins, is a lot of people like when having concepts and things like that for there to be a point where those types of names are kind of like titles for characters. Could you ever see a point where the story would develop to that point where maybe a character is quite literally known as Sloth or something like that?
Ooh, that's interesting. No, probably because okay, my issue with that is like there's just a lot of them.
It's also hard because the goal, if anything, is to pass the classes and not be that.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
so it's
Exactly.
Weird for there to be characters. I mean, they could like self-proclaim it. That might be funny for a character who's like, yeah, I get the worst scores in greed, so clearly I am just the embodiment of greed. But in terms of like an actual system or anything, not worth it.
Yeah, I think it's just because like a lot of people want to leave, and then also there's just gonna be like a lot of people in these classes.
Mhm.
So it's like hard to keep. And also, it's like, well, if you think about it, how many people are going to hell, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have the numbers, but it's probably a good amount.
Don't have
So,
the numbers, unfortunately.
there might be some old men in these classrooms. Who knows?
Do the, I guess, citizens of hell exhibit any physical differences from normal humans?
No, they're literally like
They
normal.
just look how they would be as humans.
Yes, exactly. They are the literal like incarnation of.
Okay.
They're like literally themselves. They're
I
carbon
think I
copies.
kind of like that because the whole idea of angels and everything is kind of like this, godly change from humans, which exists of a wardrobe change to pure white and a glowing light above your head, which is kind of lame if I have to put it that way,
Right.
So I kind of like the fact that you're not trying to like match that with your hell-based characters by being like, haha, devil horns and a tail. Let's go.
No. That's too like stereotypical. Like you can't. No. Yeah. Yeah. We're just keeping everybody human.
I'm in support. I just wanted to ask.
Of course. Okay. Any other questions you guys had for my magnum opus, freaking clown show?
Who would you say is the best character from this show?
It's the waifu. Why? I've just
love
decided
interest.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just decided that.
The only thing I can think of for like these like plot synopses so far that we've done is just like the three dragons meme, or there's the two serious ones, and then there's B with the Moto Sekai.
Hey, listen, look at that's the good thing about anime, right? We have a lot of different genres, and someone has to write, things for every genre. So
I mean,
don't feel bad about
someone out there is gonna listen to this and be like, "Wow, I really like these ideas. I'm gonna make these into shows." And they're
let's go.
That's why I didn't waste a good idea. I can't release these. So I have ideas.
To be fair, my idea, like I said, it's a story from when I was a kid. I was never gonna like make this into anything, so I'm just kind of happy to like turn it into an actual story of some sort, rather than it just being like imaginary fun game from when I was a child.
Yeah, I've tried writing it a few times. Like I have a few ideas story wise, and I've gotten two separate ones into like the 100-page range, and then I like look back on it after 100 pages. I'm like,
yo, you're crazy.
This is kind of trash, and so I stop. I definitely like improve every time, but I'm just not at the point where I'm confident enough to like write a full thing and actually do something with it. But that is why I decided to go the shitpost route instead of like using one of these good ideas.
Even then, I don't think your ideas it's shitpost, but it's not like it. Like I could see
realistic
this being a real anime. I know you would watch this.
Someone would.
I 100% can see this being a real thing, which I also think is within the spirit of this. So even though you sell it off as a shitpost because it is a shitpost, it's also like you did make something that's like believable in a way.
True.
That's very true. I feel like Spats would also be very believable just because
I would need to flesh it out a little bit more.
They have like such.
I mean, we're not writers at the end of the day.
True.
If like, because the Japanese have like such a, what's the right word? Infatuation with like the Seven Deadly Sins stuff and like the Christian culture, even though like most of them are like either Buddhist or atheist and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
like,
kind of why I'm. It's kind of fun that all those concepts are being used in this. I think mine is realistic only in the sense that there will always be battle shonens and people will always read battle shonens. And that's
there'll always be One Piece.
Yeah, you can
there will always be. Yeah, exactly. There will always be One Piece. But it's just it's not that it's not original, it's just the idea that like get the adrenaline pumping, have cool fights, have cool powers, checks. It's kind of like the, easy guide to having something that can get published in Shonen Jump and be mediocre, but have 300 chapters.
Yep. But we have all finished our thing. And we have reached, or about a minute 25 and 24 on the dot, basically. So I think we'll go ahead and end it there, unless we have any final thoughts to flesh out, any final questions.
Nope, that was pretty good. I like that all three of our ideas kind of, I feel like, encapsulated a lot of, what the anime industry would want, or like has. You know what? We have our shitty seasonal isekai. We have gigantic, battle shonen, hundreds of episodes, probably half of it filler and dog shit. And then we also have our like slice of life, probably gets a couple seasons, and it's just fun, has a little bit of plot, but not too much.
It's one season, and then it just never gets a second one for like 10 years, and
Like
it
10 years. Yep,
finally gets
that
it.
is true.
But yeah, so that will be the end point for this episode. If you would like to, you can follow us on. We have a multitude of different platforms for audio only. If you're ever on the run and you want to listen to us for some reason, I'll have the Anchor link below, which should link to our other platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple, and Google. I know that much. I think put us on Amazon as well. And then all the other ones are like, I don't feel like going through the work to get us on them. So those are the main ones are on. And then if you want to follow our Twitter down below, you can as well, just to get updates. Maybe I don't want to, hopefully we never have to skip a week. I want to keep consistent, but in the odds that does happen, following our Twitter, I will announce it there, since we don't have access to like YouTube community thing until like, I think it's like 500 subs you need. So we're a little far away from that. But yeah. We have a clips channel as well. I will post clips on like social media and stuff because I'm a businessman first and a podcaster second. But otherwise, that is all for today, and we hope to see you next week. And I believe you have our topic for next week. Should be an interesting one. I don't know how to make a thumbnail for it, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Goodbye.